It's a good morning to you. Welcome to Asake Online. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and this is the Breakfast Club, a show where we talk about everything that involves Matabeleland and Zimbabwe. We talk about history, we talk about social and cultural issues. And of course, today we are focusing on Gukurahundi. On the 20th of January, it will be 42 years since Gukurahundi was deployed in Matabeleland. And we now know that a lot of things happened. A lot of people died. We can argue about the number of people who were killed during Gukurahundi, but they ran into thousands. And of course, many studies have concluded that Gukurahundi was a genocide because the intention was to wipe out the people of Matabeleland. And 42 years later, we're still talking about Gukurahundi, and there have been so many programs or initiatives that have been done by civil society, that have been done by the government to try and talk or solve the issue. I'm not sure whether Gukurahundi can be solved, but to try and find ways of healing the wounds, but still nothing so far. Currently, there is an initiative by the chiefs to try and talk to victims and, I don't know, talk to them to do what. But yeah, that's what is happening now. We know there was the Zimbabwe Commission, which was set out to investigate Gukurahundi. There was the CCJP report. The information is there. The intelligence was sending reports to those in power. So the authorities know exactly what happened. And so far, 42 years later, they've not apologized. They've not compensated the victims. But today in the program, we'll be talking to Nicholas Ndebele. At one point, he was working with CCJP, I think throughout the writing of the research. So he knows a lot about this period, but he also was one of the founding members of the Zimbabwe human rights, or Zimbabwe human rights. So he is not Zim Rights. So he is not new to this scene. He's not new to the subject, but we want to find out from him what this day means to him and his own experiences. Babu Ndebele, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yes, maybe let me start by saying 20 January will be 42 years since Gukurahundi was deployed. What was your first interaction with the Fifth Brigade?
Thank you, Zenzele, for having me in this program, which I really appreciate. My first interaction with Gukurahundi was actually in 1983, in January of 1983, at my home in Silobela. At that time, I was a student at the University of Zimbabwe, but we were on vacation, and during that vacation, we were deployed in rural areas to teach. The program was called TIRA, Teacher in Rural Areas. I was stationed at a school called Fatima, near local shopping center, which is Crossroads. And suddenly there were these soldiers who came, addressed villagers, said they didn't want to see any moving car, bicycle, even a Scotch cart drawn by donkeys or cattle. They said if they saw that, they would shoot and kill. All shops were closed, schools were closed, and I thought something was amiss. I thought I was even telling villagers to say, these are not soldiers, they don't know what they're talking about. And as the days began, atrocities began to happen. And I was very naive at that time. I didn't believe that a government could do that kind of thing. So I quickly took a script and I was writing what they were doing. I took an envelope, 22 envelopes. I was writing on carbon copy. I left myself a copy. I was writing to the Prime Minister, telling him what was happening. A copy to Prime Minister, a copy to President Banana. And I took this to the soldiers themselves. And I said, I want you to take this to President Banana and this to Prime Minister Mugabe. They took the envelopes, and the atrocities continued to happen. And I was locked in.
They never opened the envelopes while you were there.
No, they didn't. So I was stuck there until about July. And I thought perhaps even at university, I didn't have any place anymore because I couldn't communicate with the university to tell them why I had not turned up. So eventually, that was now second term, I went to university. Professor Kahari was our Dean of Studies, and I told him my situation. And he communicated that to Professor Kamba, who was our Vice Chancellor. They called me for an interview. I explained exactly what had happened. I said, fine. They sent me to class. And a few days later, I got an invitation to go to see President Kenneth Banana. And I went to see him. And to my surprise, he had that letter which I had written in Slovenia.
So the Fifth Brigade had forwarded the letter to Kenneth Banana.
Yes. And he then asked me what had happened. I explained to him everything. And I said, fine, you go back to university and continue with your studies.
And he mentioned nothing about what he was going to do with this letter.
No, he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me what he was going to do. He only wanted me to brief him verbally of what had happened, in fact, what was happening in the area. And I told him everything. People were being killed. That's why I said I was naive. I did not believe that a government would turn against its people and do such kind of thing. According to me, the government would do everything possible to protect citizens, to protect infrastructure, to keep schools running, to keep everything, the economy going. We had seen that with the Ian Smith regime. So I believed the Prime Minister and the President were not aware of what was happening. So I thought I would inform them.
So now with the benefit of hindsight, do you think the Fifth Brigade read the letter or they just forwarded it?
Actually, I've been asking myself that question many, many times. If they'd read the letter in what I'd written about, they probably would have thrown away the letters. Or perhaps they knew that the government knew what they were doing. They were doing what they were sent to do. So for them, it could have been a sign that to the authorities that they were doing the right thing. I don't know. But they took the letters there. I don't know if they took the same letter to Prime Minister Mugabe.
So you start your university, you finish. Do you have any other incidents with the Fifth Brigade?
Right. I mean, there were many instances with Fifth Brigade. At one time, they found me in the bus. I was then coming from university, again in Slovenia. They come, they say, want us to show them our identities. I show them my identity, my student identity, believing that if they see that I'm an innocent student, they would leave me alone. But when they saw that, they said, how strong is your degree? Is it stronger than mine? I didn't know. So he hit me with the butt of the gun and I fell down. He was kicking me there and said, you see, my degree is strong. Until another soldier came and rescued me. Anyway, going fast forward, in 1984, I joined the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace.
Yeah.
And then immediately afterwards, in 85, I'm sent to do, with reports coming from all over the country where our Justice and Peace committees were working. And I get this report from Slovela that houses are being burnt down and things like that. So my director sends me there to go and find out. And I went there, and again, naively, I had my tape recorder, my camera, and everything. I went there. I was filming hearts, bands being burning down. The villagers there were being beaten, and I was interviewing, recording them on this tape recorder, and taking photographs. I went through following these people who were doing that. Benson Demera was then governor of the Midlands. I think he was the one spearheading that campaign of the youth, ZANU PF youth, going right through the villages, burning down homes and things like that. And I was taking photographs.
So you never had any of them attacking you or asking you what you were doing?
They didn't. But some of them were even following me behind in their vehicles. That time they didn't. I was living with people with my cards, Justice and Peace business cards, telling people if anything again happens, look for the phone me or come to the offices. We discuss these things. So these photographs that I took and the reports which I was recording, the main body of the Catholic Justice and Peace Commission breaking the silence.
Yeah, during that time, 85 in Slovenia, there are elections, but there's also lots of ZANU PF youths are beating up people. There's also the issue of disappearances. You know, I think at one night in January 1985, 12 men or so disappeared in Slovenia and they were never seen again.
11.
11, yeah.
Yes, they included people I knew very well, and a very good friend of mine, Clement Baleni, my uncles, Christopher, my uncles, Sifas Ndebele, and one of my uncles-in-law, Chuma. All they were taken the same night. I had been with Clement the previous day. Just imagine, Clement Balen, a man who, a very good man. He had nothing to do with politics. He was just a headmaster at St. Dominic's School. They took him from the school and never to be seen again. I took up that case of those 11 because that's a case that I was very familiar with their homes and everything. I did the researches, I documented everything. And as Justice and Peace Commission, we took that case to court. And that case is still today referred to as the 11 Slovenia disappeared.
So during that time, when you are there, you see all these things happening, you know, and you are there working with CCJP with the chance probably to talk to politicians. What is the political atmosphere? What are the politicians saying? Or everyone is confused. They don't know what's going on.
Yes, we did talk to them. Chino Sinkala, who was the Minister of Home Affairs then, and apparently he got irritated and he thought, I don't know what he thought about me, but he eventually detained me and said he was going to throw away the keys of Chikurubi down the ocean. So imply that I was going to be there for a very, very long time. We also talked to Zapu people, Dr. Joshua Nkomo, Dabengwa, all of them. We talked to almost everybody. And we made records of these things. In fact, it's very interesting because fast forward in 1987, we had decided as the Catholic Justice and Peace Commission and the Bishops' Conference that we're going to make a very big report and state what our opinion was in terms of who was being responsible for all this. Remember, Zapu was saying ZANU-PF through Fifth Brigade was responsible, and ZANU was saying it's Zapu, these dissidents who were responsible for the atrocities, because the government had the responsibility to fight against dissidents. And we tried to talk to Zapu to say, are you guys, your dissidents, what is the aim? Zapu, Joshua Nkomo flatly denied the responsibility for dissidents. And we would go back to Zapu and say, these guys are denying responsibility. That went on until, in fact, during 87, we saw ZANU in terms of, it was Sinkala, Nyagumbo, and Edson Zobo. They told us that Zapu was the biggest problem. So the following day, we told them that we were going to see Zapu. In fact, Sinkala said, go and ask Zapu why they are killing people and sending dissidents. We made records. The following day, Bishop Mutume was our bishop president in the Justice and Peace Commission. Mike Oretti was the chairman. Myself went down to Bulawayo to meet Nkomo in this team. In Bulawayo, we took along Bishop Cullen. So we went to see Dr. Joshua Nkomo with Dabengwa, Swazini Zovu, their team. We put across what ZANU had said to us. They flatly denied everything and said, go back and tell ZANU what we have said. We took our notes. The following day, we were at Innocent Kala's office. We gave him the notes that the minutes that we done with Zapu. He answered back. We went about 3 or 4 times up and down, Bulawayo, Harare, Bulawayo, Harare. And then at the last time we saw Mkala said, okay, leave it with me. We left it with him. I remember me and Joel Silonda made a trip to the United States. So we left and went to the States in September. And while we were in the States in October, we heard that ZANU and Zapu had agreed to work towards unity. We took it as usual, that through the usual style, unity and unity talks and they break. We didn't give it much consideration. But that was the unity that then prevailed to in Versailles, which was good.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who was there when things happening, do you think that Zapu really supported the dissidents?
No, not at all. I will tell you, at some point when I met Aaron Lovu and Swazini, those top commanders in Zipra, they begged me to say, please, Mr. Ndebele, can you go and tell Umdala ukuthi abantu sebefile, abantu bayafa, and we are here, we cannot even help them. Ask him, tell him ukuthi sithe thina akhangele eceleni to look aside, and we will do what we can to defend the people. I went to Ndala Josh. I told him that these guys are begging you to look aside. Zenzele, I tell you, Umdala stood up, knelt before me, with his hands in prayer-like position. Said, Ndebele, I beg you, go and tell them, no, bengenzi into enjalo, abantu bangaphela. And I was also confused why you would say that, because people were dying, and many people were saying Zapu was letting them down. And I thought, as well as my how can you say this? Here are people who wanting to save the situation, and he's saying no. Is he happy that people are dying? I went back to Aaron and told him, this is what Ndala says. He begged me to beg you not to do anything because I want to bangaphela. Lokhu kuzadlula. Abantu bengaphela. We fought for independence. His words was, we fought for independence. We got independence. We don't need to kill each other as brothers. That was his stance, and I believed he had nothing to do with dissidents. This is why even at the unity signing and the amnesty given to the dissidents, Nkomo refused to give an order for dissidents to come back. He refused. I even went back to him and said, what does it take you just give the order to say these guys should come back? He said, Ndebele, I did not send those people. Whoever sent those people should tell them to come back. And for sure, it was Innocent Kala who accounted for them. So I remember when 13 of them had surrendered. He still said, no, there's still one more. And for sure, the following day, Tambulenyoga surrendered. And then he said, yes, now they've all surrendered. How did you know how many they were?
There's a time when you are arrested and you really spend time in prison. Tell us about your arrest. What happened?
That was Innocent Kala. We had gone to see him with a report, as we usually did. We did our reports for government to say, government, look, this is what is happening. So we went there, Bishop Mtume, Michael Rett, and myself. And Kala knew that I was the one doing, making these reports, making the research. So he said in front of Bishop Mtume and Michael Rett, Bishop, you are employing a dissident. This man is a dissident. Bishop said, oh, well, if he is a dissident, if you give us evidence that he is a dissident, we will fire him. So we went out. But before we went out, as we were going out, he ordered his policemen at his office to arrest me. So they arrested me. And then his permanent secretary, I think it was Wabira, then came and said, no, Minister, we don't do that. Let him go. So he let me go. 2 days later, just after lunch, officers came into my office. They arrested me. They took every file in the office. They took them to the charge office, and they took me there. That's how I got arrested.
So what was the charge?
It was something like I was friendly to enemy countries and the enemy organizations. I was taking pictures of sensitive structures. Yeah, those were the charges.
So how long do you stay in detention?
I think it was about a month. And when I found myself being detained at Chikurubi, the same cell with Domestic Dabenga, I thought, oh yeah, Nkala was right that he was going to throw away the keys to the ocean. Because Dabenga had been there for a long time, and me being put in the same cell, my bed beside his, I thought, this is it, I will never come out of this prison.
So you finally come out. So were you like taken to court and acquitted, or you were just released?
Yes, I was taken to court. I think during that month I attended court about 3 times, and the government was asked to produce the pictures that I had taken of sensitive structures. Was asked to produce, to say which organizations and which countries I was friendly to, which were enemy to Zimbabwe. And at that time, Zimbabwe was a member of the non-aligned movement. So it was difficult for them to name any country that was enemy to Zimbabwe or any organization that was enemy to Zimbabwe. So when they failed to do that, Justice Blackie ordered my release. And I was released and then detained again. My lawyer, Brian Elliott, came. Then they said they were re-detaining me in order to that I take the uniform, the group uniform, back to prison. But my lawyer said, okay, fine, we can. He brought me some clothes, gave me clothes, and then he said, okay, you can have your uniform. And then I got released.
So we 42 years later, we are still talking about the issue of Gukurahundi and not have, the government has not apologized for this. They've not compensated anyone. As someone who worked in this area, what do you think is the solution?
This is a very important question, Zenzele. I am passionate about the resolution of the Gukurahundi period or issue. Because if it is not properly resolved, it will spill into an ethnic problem. And the question should be asked and answered now. Was Gukurahundi an ethnic issue or a political issue? And I believe that Gukurahundi was a political issue. It was because ZANU-PF wanted to establish a one-party state. And ZANU-PF feared that Zapu was a big threat, a big spanner in the path of a one-party state. And therefore, all that happened was targeting Zapu as a political party and not Ndebele as an ethnic grouping. And if we clarify on that issue, and then I think we will have direction towards how we resolve it. If it becomes an ethnic issue that the Shonas were targeting the Ndebele, it can never be resolved. It can never be peacefully resolved. But if it becomes, if we understand it as a political issue, then the people of Zimbabwe can unite and resolve it. Both Shona and Ndebele can unite and resolve it. I do not believe and I do not think that it was the Shona that took a decision to kill the Ndebele. The majority of people in Mashonaland had nothing to do with this. didn't even know that these atrocities were happening. And that was one other frustrating issue during the time I was dealing with these issues, because some of the colleagues, even at CCJP, who were did not believe that my reports were true. They thought I was exaggerating some of these things. It was a big frustration. So I know people in Mashonaland did not know what was happening, because there was a blanket cover of information. And until this issue is resolved in a way that the people in Mashonaland will also come and say and condemn Gukurahundi, that it was done in our name perhaps, but we were not party to it and we do not condone it, then we as a nation can resolve this issue. We can both, as Ndebele and Shona, demand accountability, that things were done in our name, using our taxpayers' money, that we did not sanction or agree with. And then we can find an amicable solution forward.
There is currently the chiefs process, where chiefs are said to be, they're going to go to the communities and consult communities on what needs to be done. What's your view on that process?
I honestly don't understand what the chiefs program is all about. If it were to collect the evidence and information of how many people were affected, yes, the chiefs, if the chiefs were given 2 weeks, they would come up with all that information of who was affected, how many, the figure would be known in 2 weeks' time. But as to how the issue is to be resolved, the solution, I'm not sure. Because to me, it appears as if this problem of Gukurahundi has two approaches. One of the victims, which the chiefs are, in their communities, and therefore they will be looking forward to as solutions, is one thing. And then the other approach is the people, the perpetrators, the government. They also see that the Gukurahundi is an issue, as a problem. But in what way is it a problem to them? It is a problem to them because victims keep on nagging and talking about it. They would rather say, shut up about it. For them, it looks like members of the Gukurahundi that were involved then are heroes. They did a good job. So how can we then have a solution whereby some people think that this was a good job done and others say this was a genocide? It's difficult to see how the two processes can come up with a one solution. So in that respect, you saw Parents Shiri, the leader of Gukurahundi, being made a national hero. How does that feel on the part of the victims? This is a guy who was the who was in the forefront of the killings, and yet he is now made a national hero. What happened to his troops, the Fifth Brigade troops? We don't know. Were they simply rewarded with positions to lead units of the army, and their leading these units of the army today? We don't know. And if they are, what chance is there that another Gukurahundi situation could not arise in future? We don't know. These are issues that need to be addressed. I don't know what the chief's approach, what is hoped to be achieved by their consulting the community. And I don't know what they are consulting the community on.
Yeah. Maybe lastly, if you were to get an opportunity to advise government on this issue, what would you say?
I've always advised government to say, look, the truth must be faced. Let us face the truth. Everybody knows that the killing of those people, of victims in Ndebele, was wrong. Let's get closure to it. Let's be genuine. The truth will see us. The arrogance that we seem to see of perpetrators being continuously rewarded and victims being continuously victimized. For example, Mr. Ndebele, there was, I saw the question of the issue of these ex-Zipra who were missed at a rally or somewhere, more than 200 of them. And only now government saying, no, that was wrong. Government was going to pay them until now. But has that happened? I don't know if that has happened. But those kind of things would be an indicator of the remorsefulness of government, the correction of what went wrong. There are many in that kind of situation who simply lost, even don't have pensions today because they were summarily dismissed. Can that be corrected? There are business people in the region, Ndebele and the Midlands, who were doing business, taking loans from the banks and things, and their businesses were burnt down, destroyed. I don't know how they've since paid those loans back to the banks, or they simply did not, and those loans are still hanging around them. And can something be done to assist them to restart their businesses? Perhaps give them loans, interest-free loans, to start businesses. As a matter of, for lack of a good word, deliberate action to help the people around. Something must be done so that the region realize that the whole nation is behind them in trying to resolve this issue. Although the issue of birth certificates has been somehow resolved in that people can easily access death certificates stating that these people were killed by Gukurahundi and therefore get birth certificates. That's okay, but let's go beyond that. Let's address things like the education system, the health system within those regions.
Yeah.
Education system, make sure that the schools are well staffed by people qualified to teach in those regions, like the Ndebele. I often see in Zombe, people are crying that the teachers at primary level, grade 1, the teacher is shown and can't speak a syllable of Ndebele, but he's supposed to teach those children. Sulobela, all those areas. Sure, it is possible to get a grade 1 teacher who is Ndebele who can teach these people, these children, their own language. So my blanket advice to government would be, let us avoid making this issue, letting this issue spill into an ethnic problem. Let us confine it to the political arena and resolve it politically.
Yeah, you mentioned quite important issues, yeah.
And today, the current president is in a very good opportunistic position to resolve this issue. We lost the opportunity with Mugabe and Nkomo dying, but fortunately we still have the current president. We still have Sidney Sekaramani. We still have Chiwenga. We still have Muhadi, Kembo Muhadi. Once these people go and this issue, before this issue is resolved, we are going to be in deep trouble. We are going to leave our children and our grandchildren a deep-seated problem, which they will find it difficult to resolve. And yet, we have the opportunity to resolve it now.
Yes, that's quite important. And you mentioned, the Zipra guys who were 250 Zipra guys who were fired from the army, and up to now, they're still waiting to be compensated, although they were promised that their money was going to come. And as of just a week ago, they had not yet received their money. And at some point, I went to Cholocho and I met a guy, Ubabuma Tema, who had a shop during Gukurahundi. And he told me that he used to get, orders from Mabo National Foods and other companies and pay in 30 days. But his shop was looted by the Fifth Brigade, and he had to sell all his head of cattle to pay the companies that he owed. And up to today, he has never managed to really get his shop back. So there are many people who were economically affected by Gukurahundi, and they have not had a chance to recover from that.
Yeah. Zenzele, if I may ask you one thing with your program, if you could expand it to people in Mashonaland, even if it's just to find out how they feel about the issue of Gukurahundi, how much they know about the issue of Gukurahundi. Let us bring them into the resolution of this issue. The young people, how do they feel about Gukurahundi, both in Ndebele and in Mashonaland? I say so because I was shocked one day here in the UK. This young man, Shona, we had a very simple discussion in the argument, and he got annoyed, and he said, Gukurahundi yakataza kusiya mama Ndebele vari vapenyu ingada yakatsvaira vese. I will translate that into Ndebele. Gukurahundi yapambanisa ngokuchiya manya Ndebele visapila ngayatanyela bonke. I will translate that again into English. Gukurahundi made a very big mistake by leaving some Ndebeles alive. We should have swept all of them away. This is a young man who wasn't even born then, born later after Gukurahundi. But he has such kind of attitude or feelings. What has he been told about Gukurahundi? What does he know? So on their side, what are they saying about Gukurahundi? You see what I mean?
Yes.
What are they being told about Gukurahundi? Are they being told that Gukurahundi saved a situation whereby dissidents would have taken this country? Are they being told negative things about Zapu, the Ndebele people, the Zipra? And similarly, we want to know what my children or my grandchildren are thinking about Gukurahundi. Then the nation will find out what I'm telling them about Gukurahundi. Which means, again, I come back to, if we do not resolve this issue properly, it will spill into an ethnic issue. If my children and my grandchildren continue to tell the story that our relatives were killed for nothing because the Shona people wanted to wipe out the Ndebele, that will stick and with them. And if on the Shona side they're being told, oh, these Ndebeles that were dissidents, they wanted to take over government, and Gukurahundi did a very good job by stopping them. That kind of narrative will go down, and at the end, these two narratives won't meet. And the issue will have been distorted so much that there won't be any salvation to it.
Thank you very much, Babu Ndebele, for this discussion. You really enlightened us, and actually, when you're talking about, what is it that the people in Mashonaland know about Gukurahundi, and what is it that the kids in Matebeleland know about Gukurahundi? And there's a time when all Zimbabweans would have one understanding and find each other, because I always say to people, tribalism and racism is taught. People are not born tribalists. People are not born racists. And they grow up with them. They are taught to hate someone for who they are. And we have a problem of tribalism in Zimbabwe. You can see that the hate that you see on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, that if it's not addressed, it's not going to be solved. It will go out of hand. And this was quite an enlightening program, and today we're talking to Nicholas Ndebele, human rights defender, who was really in the thick of things during Gukurahundi, who's not talking about what he had, but he's talking about first-hand information of the things that were happening when he was there. And his encouragement, of course, is that government should find a way of solving this issue, should find a way of bringing people together so that we can see each other as Zimbabwean more than anything else, because what binds us together is that we belong to the same country, we belong to the same nation, and we have any other home besides Zimbabwe. So wherever we go, we call ourselves Zimbabweans. But if we can't look each other in the eye and call ourselves comrades or friends or brothers, but Spizani, Lodi Kalanga, Lodi Shona, Lodi Ndebele, I think as a nation we would have failed ourselves and we would have failed our kids. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and let's meet again in other programs.